Hello, good morning. We'll start with Lamarin Tsongkhapa Guru Yoga, and then we'll correct motivation with refuge and bodhicitta. Hello, good morning. We'll start with Lamarin Tsongkhapa Guru Yoga. All right. On the heart of the saver of the 100 deities of the Shida, on a peak of cloud resembling climb of his extremely white fresh curd, King of Dhamma, omniscient, lost and Drapa, please come here together with your sons. In the sky before me, on line throne, lotus and moon, my perfect pure Guru smiles with delight. Supreme full of merit from a mind of faith, please abide for 100 eons to spread the teachings. Your holy mind is the intelligence that understands the full extent of objects to be known. Your holy speech with its excellent explanations is ear ornament for those of good fortune. Your holy body is radiantly beautiful with glory renowned. To you who are meaningful to see, hear, and remember are prostrate. Pleasant drinking water, various flowers, fragrant incenses, light-scented waters, and so forth. Oceans of cloud-like offerings, both actually arranged and mentally emanated. I offer to you the supreme field of merit. Whatever non-virtue of body, speech, and mind, especially those opposite to the three vows that I've collected from beginningless time, I confess each and every one with fervent regret from my heart. You strove for much learning and practice in this degenerate age and made your freedoms and richnesses meaningful by abandoning the 8 worldly concerns. Several will sincerely rejoice in your extensive deeds. Perfect pure holy gurus from the billion clouds of wisdom and compassion in the sky of the Dhammakaya. Please let fall a rain of the fun and extensive Dhamma upon the receptacle of those to be subdued exactly as they need. May whatever virtue I've collected benefit the teachings and long trust my greater beings, and in particular may it cause the essence of perfect pure loss and Drakpa's teachings to shine forever. Sa-shi po-ki Geshe me-to tam-ri-ra-li-shi ni-de-ge-pa-li san-ge-shi-du mi-te-o-wa Gi-do-gu-nam-da Shin-la-chu-pa-shu. By the merits of having offered this mandala to Lamrim Tsongkhapa and his 2 sons, may I, my family members, and all sentient beings be able to meet, practice, and actualize the teachings of the victorious one, Losang Drakpa, who had the morality of an eminently pure way of life, was courageous in extensive conduct of the sons of the victorious one, and accomplished the yoga of 2 stages of supreme bliss and emptiness. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamniyatayami. By the force of having fervently requested in this way, hollow beams of white light are emitted from the hearts of the perfect pure father and sons, and combining into one enter my crown. White next to the color of milk, flows from the opening of 2 white light, cleansing all my sicknesses, spirits, harm, negative karmas, obscurations, and the imprints without exception. My body becomes as pure and clear as crystal. Mimete wete chen chen rezi, jime kimbe wambo jampe ya, dupo malo jomze sanweda, kanchen kimbe tsunge tsunga pa, lo sandra pe shavla sowa de, mimete wete chen chen rezi, jime kimbe wambo jampe ya, dupo malo jomze sanweda, kanchen kimbe tsunge tsunga pa, lo sandra pe shavla sowa de, mimete wete chen chen rezi, jime kimbe wambo jampe ya, dupo malo jomze sanweda, Kanchen Kimbe Tsugen Tsongapa, Losandra Peshabla Soa.
Sangye Chedan Tsoji Chonula Chanchu Bardu Dani Kyabsunchi Dagi Chushe Gibe Tsanagi Drolam Penchi Sangye Dubarasho Sangye Chedan Tsoji Chonula Chanchu Bardu Dani Kyabsunchi Dagi Chushe Gibe Tsanagi Drolam Penchi Sangye Dubarasho Sangye Chedan Tsoji Chonula Chanchu Bardu Dani Kyabsunchi Dagi Chushe Gibe Tsanagi Drolam Penchi Sangye Dubarasho 강기 두전이 손에 따와 담지 밤비치를 담비 춘든지 고담 제라 창제로 Good morning everyone.
Do you hear that? Just joking. Sound of no hand clapping.
강한줄 Lamrim 기참디 진속 파신 죽은 것들이 송승바직 디 참니 아니 렌스 믹스에 와도치 지용고레스 디카레스 라온디 두샤 람라야 틱당기 아니 탑 doing over shesach 디캅들레디샤스.
And so we've been looking at the steps of the path to enlightenment. Lama Tsongkhapa's middling presentation on the steps of the path to enlightenment. Now we've covered the presentation of the six perfections that come under the section of the steps of the path of those of the great scope. So we've finished looking at the presentation of the six perfections. And next we have a special section in the text, which is teaching the method for bodhisattvas to care for disciples. To care for them in leading them along the stairs of the path. So this special method is called the 4 ways of gathering.
Tadi 가서다 믹스기 대과 침비의 최 대과 침비의 최량의 지원디 그 대과 침비의 최디 아니 현라야 편도체 지게 탑시지라서 현라 편도체기 탑시지 다 현라 편도체발이야 편도체사기 율대당 아니 니부지단 통부지 차와이나 아니 편도체 답대부 배차기로 왔으라 디 체도 아니 doing over shitty sunglos.
And so this is a special point, particularly in relation to the practice of the Mahayana Dharma. So for practicing the Mahayana Dharma, the type of practice that we engage with is the benefit of others, benefiting others. And so we engage in methods for benefiting others. And in order to do so, when we look at others, these are the objects, right? So kind of we want to benefit others. In order to do so, we need then to draw closer to them, or for them to become closer to us, to have a sense of affection between oneself and others. If we develop that sense of closeness between oneself and others, it'd be way easier or more, much more comfortable to enact the benefit of others.
There's the doing over shitty careers laundi, Chitangita, and the show malok doing over shitty, any chi ngobujiya, nyamatavu, any jimba chebati. Teni tam nyambusheya, any karsota tam nyambusheya, teni pena kang shebi tendi. Penata Landrug Nedoch, Shegiabana, T. Khan Shebati, Susugi, Shebana Shinki, Laglan Taria. And Dian Pigi, and in Mepashomi, and in Debut Dunchini, and in Laviati. The dish is the Chagores.
And so what are those ways of gathering? Well, first off, we have giving, the giving of gifts or giving of material things. That's the first one. The second one is to speak pleasantly. Not only we speak pleasantly, but also what we speak of, particularly in relation to the Buddha Dharma, is, for example, the things that one needs to take up, the things that one needs to cast aside, giving such explanation to others. And so when such explanation is given to others, one also needs to be practicing what one preaches, right? That's the third way of gathering, practicing what you preach. And then the fourth one is also to speak in a way that accords with others' aspirations, other wishes.
Tilda Bena Nazu Mijilea Tambu, Tubainero, Mingo Mishizal Tubaina, and the Captu Delia, Medelia, Bena, Chirizorich, Jevainero. Manche Gagras, the Raj, Chiriji, Chiridilla and Tanski Amardine, Sam Dini Pigilia, Chirid Midilla Jevaina, and Manche Gagrada. Rokashita me Kenza Dindio at the mother, Manche Gagras.
Just to illustrate that, you meet someone, you create a connection with that person, you give them something, even as far as just giving them a lolly, a candy. When we create connections based upon that, people like it. I mean, of course, you could have someone that, it works for most people. It could be that someone that would awkwardly be very displeased with something like that, being given a lolly and such, but most people will react positively to that.
Ganzo Jagala Yorra, Jagagi Shinaji Tavalia, Dranga Yaku Tindera, Kala Yaku, Conchimbu Yordania, Consutal draw on the Migi Jago down Lebatan, Limbutan, Fifth Childra, Limbutan, Fifth Childra. And yet, Nala Leva the Lamsan Konsugi, time as you good juice gagdo. Captain. You can go that, tell a drain, give that. This is Sanji Chunangil, Labjaji Konsugi language.
Geshe remembers living in South India at his monastery. There was one fancy hotel with a restaurant that was located in the middle of the forest. It was rather pricey, and when a guest or a patron would come in, they would play the flute, so as a welcoming tone. someone plays the flute, escorts them to their seat, and as soon as they sit down, they're being given a small glass of fresh juice. And so Geshe reckons that it immediately elicits that sense of being welcomed in a pleasant way. No one dislikes that.
제가 세나치 대바이나 미가음도 다로 땡이 sabjod legmenda nga saganjile ya sar mambu drogo yoro saganjine kala ya uttegdo imejile suben ya bu sedo kunze suben nga di suben de test tedelaimba kunze gikiti gamro chinjin nanga tomakashilo ani tamadele ya kala tsigyadi kunze digi suben tomakashidele ya gomusum rolasum tsigyasira nga dinin 제는 ronya marang roji a marab roji chedam marab ro thondi gagumdo ta senachina gagumdo ta kanji che chechon madbi chi phile ya gavi sese jar de chi chebane digi ani mida mi parale ya java shathu yobadi Geshe gyatan bareshas ro.
Whereas if if within the connections that we have with others, we have stinginess, we don't react positively to that. Geshe was used to frequent one restaurant. He used to go to the restaurant quite a few times, and they had really nice chili paste. One day he asked for an extra portion of chili paste, and they gave him a small container with a couple of teaspoons of chili. And at the end, when he got the bill, they charged him for that, like $3. The Geshe said that it leaves this taste of uneasiness, of discomfort. Anyway, Geshe stopped going to that restaurant. He felt sometimes when our connections with others are not based on kind of being generous, but being stingy, it doesn't create a really nice feeling between oneself and others.
Tinza ani sambanamda kiro chechung meba chechung sikiremda taji ani thoma mithon digi ani ji jinya di Geshe gyadam pe kichim tinni soni chi chala damas chi tretsavi jelaro temple ya shuj siu degda ngo mashing ji lakdon ngo mashing ji chiri chebania nga tidi midi chiri cheson samson ra kaji midi jel tu digi midi nyamde keja yongyagi godamasun cherogo dasra ani keje kanji nambasangi bi tebachim bi chu toni pendo chedi keje sheni pendo chedi kecheshu ra chu toni be keje shedi langdur nesingi di sosu kangshiba di shenlapa ani Geshe gyat tarwa Geshe gyat ta shenlangut ani pas ani sheyati kicheshu chagores dinza di gochedi ani thoma medele ya tuondi gich tebaina ro kolon zambu ji tone go tebaina an tenden digi be yagu chagosales dichik sungores.
So it's important to have an attitude that is genuine, a genuine attitude. We meet with someone, and with a genuine attitude, we can be generous, give them something. Even as far as Geshe says, just kind of doing it, keeping it simple. Even if you just give that person a lolly, a candy, with a pure intention, genuine intention, you create a certain impression. And so that when you then later on talk with that person, when you communicate with that person, it opens the way for having this clear and genuine communication with others, a genuine conversation with others. And again, from the point of view of the Buddha Dhamma, the Mahayana Dhamma, our intention, our motivation is to be of benefit to others. And so the way to be of benefit to others, the most beneficial way, effective way to be of benefit to others is to speak to them, to talk to them. For example, to communicate, from Buddhist perspective, what are the things that we need to give up? What are the things that we need to cast aside? The different divisions or classifications of things that we want to do, things that we ought not to do. This is the best way that we can be of benefit to others. And so when we then meet someone and we start communicating with that person, it's really good to start communicating with that person in a positive way. Like, for example, initially with a positive intention, genuine intention, becoming generous, giving something. So this is the first way of gathering that is explained here in the section of the 4 ways of gathering disciples.
대대자다 라마 침도서 제온디 망체게 직난 것도 하다 직난 거랬어 망체게 아니 간지 젠딩 수도지 그러 디기 아니 미망부기 디 냐그다 라마 침디 직 춘준 근데 춘준 진짜바는 냐데야서 아니 셴바키면은 아니 송두 진짜바는 디쇼지 싸침을 냐그도 알아 디니 존이 아니 믹스 제와 차도에로지 디용고요레스 아니 간주 미다 미바네야 믹스 벤 라마 침마이 바다 가란서 따보기 찍찍을 투원디 아니 여바이나 직 파수 아니 제와 용약이 아니 제지 샤바이나 등원에 빼야고 차고레스 라 간지 최도 톰바치 산점된 디 공부도 톰바치 아주 믿음이 빠라래야 제와 치고 그러다 제와 지야기 직 샘 나라야 아니 대야치디 아니 직 제바나 다디 약수 직 차고도 디가니 다 드니께지니 무시해 들어 베나 토마토 원디게 베나 가르시오이네야 간지 아니 미드 통원디 아주 미드메 통원디 직 도왔다 라 가리나 간지 님부치 시에디 계시무 배차고 알았어 아니 민투니 아니 제바 용야다 아니 론 통부 용야디 계시무 차고도 왔어.
It's quite common actually for high-ranking lamas, those great lamas, when they encounter a new audience to distribute something to the people in the audience. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It can be something that is quite small. It's creating a connection with others. It's like sometimes type of memorabilia or something small is being distributed, even as far as just, in the Tibetan culture, a protection code, those red codes are sometimes being distributed. So you can think about it as a way of creating connections with others. So we as human beings, as living beings, we connect with each other. And we can create those good connections with others when we become generous, we give to others. So here, of course, we do it in a specific context. We want to create a Dhamma connection with others so that opening the way to that, we then speak to them, we communicate to them. We want to create pleasant communication. So that, when we give something to another person, something remains with them, at least in their memory. Then we converse with them, we talk to them. And so we want to facilitate pleasant communication and to speak to others in a way that not only pleasant, but in a way that in a harmonious way with others.
대리 간지 디 간주 대고 침비우치 라다 대고 침비우치 징이 이메일로 마도 간주 탄데 셰야디 아니 대고 침비우치 셰고레스 라 대고 침비우치디 심전 탐젤야 펜도치야디 펜도치술디 셰고레스 라 심전 탐젤야 펜도디 가주스 제투 예메다 간주기 다 하고야도로 깔카고 임바이네야 수수기 비게 아니 릭직과 빼나 밑 더블이야 아니 펜도 제딩 안줄이야 고급 망여러서 심진 현리 밀라 펜도 제디 고급 망여러 간스나 남규다 게제시에다 간지 토니 아니 안주 릭tum바인자 디 밀야 미드 밀야 펜도 제래 미드 미파라긴 제와디 야부치 차바 이나 아니 펜도디 야칠 슈크칠 띵 sabjeto yagi keba drogdo as tinza ani meto ondigi medami parale ya gemusho ya ro ani pigita kubin namgyurten yala sogotu pe kichembu chagores ro dis tebuchimbi chu samlo shishani dichebana 다가랑 tebuchimbi chuero asdaro chu chagores.
And particularly in this context, we tie it up with the practice of the Mahayana Dhamma. So we explain the practice of the Mahayana Dhamma. The Mahayana Dhamma is practiced for the sake of all sentient beings in order to benefit all sentient beings. So then if we do want to be of benefit to all sentient beings, we can assess our personal ability to be of help to others. Currently, it's quite limited. Our ability to be of benefit to others is rather limited. It is quite hard to be of benefit to all living beings. But what we begin with is those around us, those who are of a similar type to us, which means that they're different living beings, but at least we're capable of benefiting other human beings, for example, the ones that communicate in a way that is similar to us, that speak the same language, and so forth, those that can understand that. We can benefit them in a way that will become greater, deeper, more effective. And so we want to do that with at least a respectful attitude, being pleasant, smiling at the other person. This is really important. And so if we do that, if you communicate with others in this way, that in itself becomes a practice of the Mahayana Dhamma.
Pena tanganzu ringtungi paralaya anim jelam yongyat ranganzu ringtungu paralaya jelam java yakbu shamaduna ani chukba mangchedi ringtun leya shorgorasra chukba yongyagi kenza zu di chagdora da chagdok yasigata di chagdoki chagdok di mangcha ringtun la legdo asra midami paralaya chagdok pena tundru paralaya chagdok ani nganzu dustada pena ani mangcha sosu nanglo la ya chukba jaya di mangdo se kidina ki paralaya ki tuwa langsang ani chukba jaya da mi na chukba jasa mi chagora ro dia chagdorin jensamri da dinjigi chagdodan jensam jigma nyon tamaduna ani chukba mentuni yongya zambuli nanglo ya di yoba dinga onsum tonde derwas da di shiyagi tabdi ani chö di nyakchi mado peshi yosa mares ro chö toni anzu chikchile ya pendo che nibo yoba di nibo chöni chikchile ya zatse swechene chambu cheyagi samlo di chö toni da yakshu di chö toni tebo chimbi chö nani labja dirago res.
And so when we think about it, for instance, the way that we communicate with others, it becomes very effective or very strong when it is done with those who are of similar type to us, the same type of us, in a sense that kind of we have the same codes of communication, similar body language, similar language, the same language, and so forth. So when our connections with those who are of similar type to us is not a good connection, we have more conflicts with each other, more conflicts, more quarrels, and so forth. When we do not connect with others in a positive way, when, for example, we have jealousy occurring between one another, we have conflicts. Jealousy and such arise mostly with those who are of similar type to you, similar background, you would say. And so we can see that not only happening for us as human beings, but also we can look at that in animal behavior, like, for example, having a territorial behavior. All of us have seen probably dogs fighting and so forth, fighting with each other, fighting over territory or whatever. And so It also exists for us, those fighting with each other, conflict with each other exists also for us as human beings, motivated by jealousy, competitiveness, and so forth. And without reducing jealousy, competitiveness, and so forth, we'll still continue to quarrel with others. We can see that directly in the world around us, how conflicts, quarreling, arguments, and so forth are done, first of all, motivated by such disturbing emotions, jealousy, competitiveness, and so forth, but also fighting with those who are basically the same as you, similar to you, the same as you. And so then when we think about it from a Dharma perspective, since we develop the motivation, the aspiration to be of benefit to others, to do that, we need to engender harmony between oneself and others, to build connections based on agreement. This is the best way of being of benefit to others. And this is the type of training or advice that we are given in the Mahayana Dharma.
Redus Deva in the Ranganzo, Bena Tawado in the Tawe Namlolaya, Chupajadi, Mandra Chiordas. Anizu Tada, Anizu Namlolaya, Chupaja Mandas, Digi, any Migayanayam, put the Puparalaya, Chuba Mansha. The Pumuparalia, Truba Mansha, Chichita, Terry Jealous over Shanas of the Jagdos. These are the ring Tungu Paralia, Truba the Tado the Man, Chadoti, Shig Mintasalia, Chadoti, Chado Shuyungumada, Chado Kazushukcha Ditsugi, Truba the Man Legdo, the Condro Silas over.
And you can see that in different communities, even in monastic communities. So when you look at community of monks, then you find monks that fight or argue with each other more than they fight with people outside of the community. They fight with people inside the community. It's like that also for community of nuns, but also amongst the laity. Geshe reckons that it is more common for guys to fight with each other and for girls to fight with each other rather than with different people of different backgrounds. And so we fight often with people that have a similar background to us.
Anzangema doji denlaya, Jauron Sonju Shoj Bremba. You doji denlaya, Chuyosons. Jaga Tronsib di doji trading Jalo Jaga Tronsib. Jalaya Konda Tagbadore. Jagabomo the true bush Shujagdo, but the chick transition. Minising upon temper and constitution little human. Most of the Chito education with the chick attention. It did not log it, didn't do that the ring two layer, ring two parallel, child of the bishop symbol.
Geshe spent some time at Bodh Gaya. During his honest teaching, it's quite it's a place that draws a massive crowd. And the major stupa complex is surrounded by an Indian village. And so when you hang out in that Indian village every day after teachings, you see, first of all, massive crowd, but it seems that every day there is some fight going on. And Geshe said that kind of, it's quite a spectacle. It's like almost every time when you go to the market or when you go to hang out, you see, for example, you see actual fist fights. You see kind of, it's not uncommon to see two girls having a go at each other, tearing each other's hair and so forth, pulling each other's hair, pulling punches. And so when Geshe thinks about it, it's like those fights that occur with people of similar background, people that are similar, that share similarities between one another, they have a go with each other.
Ani pendo chedi ya ringting paralaya pendo di shukche chetu gres shukche chetu da dire ani chik susun nangza keje she to jimba na ya chave paralaya ani keje di mang chetu gres ro ani pu paralaya keje di mang yungora pomo par keje mang yungora means ani yaksan samdam na ani pendo di ringting la ya 펜도 슉제 두고 여봐도 야시자단 말이에요.
And so when we think about it, when we become smart about it, we can also recognize that since arguments or quarrels, fights occur with people of, more likely with people of similar background, same type, so to speak. Also, if we can help others, we'll be able to help others that are similar to us, similar background. We'll be able to be more efficient, more effective in helping those who are similar to us. And so in the same way that you can say that, for example, it is more common for people inside a community to fight with each other, to quarrel with each other. It's like, for example, you might find it more in a monastic community, for example, that monks argue with each other. Also, if they actually talk to each other in a way that is conducive, positive, and so forth, they can influence each other in a way that is very effective, in a positive way. So in a monastic community, monks and nuns, or even in the laity, so when you're a guide, then you can talk in a way that is really beneficial to your mates. If you have if you have girlfriends, if you're a woman, you have a girlfriend, also kind of based on those relationships with those who are similar to you, you can be helpful and very effective in a way that you're helpful to others, because there is some common ground that makes it easier to benefit those around you.
그래다 간주기 계지 참아 된 두바이나 계지 참아 된 두바이나 아니 미들이야 건고 가르도 미들이야 깡아 가르도 참만 통투로 와서 참만 통도 되니 아니 로봇 제바이나 원내 비기 깡아 여비 돌이야 로봇 제투에 리그러다.
And so we communicate with others, we speak out, and we do that clearly. And so when we speak with others in a genuine and open way, we can recognize the needs of others. What are their needs? What are the problems? We can see that better, and then the help and the assistance that we can give them would be much better.
들다 계지시니 로 비기기 아니 찍찍 빨아려야 계자디 참아 레온디기 데니페나타 강가 가리여봐 아니 독박 가리여봐 아니 디 로버치엘이야 다 독바디 세고라 베나 독바로진 독바 세고라 독바 세버치발이야 아니 내든 참아디 소수기 콘도 추치로 베나타 아니 주 내륙 된다들이 내륙 된다디 소수 아부 직신바이나 아니 수냠도 깨지셔바이나야 내륙라 투온디 드니 아니 모야당 독바사야당 아니 고코리아 참말로 디토니 건자 아니 디토니 아니 밀라 아니 텐추세디 아니 무연도 강인바디 아니 라테 투약 아니 독바세 투약 데 두응고버시낭 다 somebody 레거다 디차고레스.
And so we speak pleasantly to others. And then when we speak to others, we can become clear about what the problems are, what the difficulties are, what are the doubts, that they have. And when we understand that, we can be of benefit to others. We can be of benefit to others in removing their doubts. To be able to remove their doubts, to dispel their doubts, we ourselves need to understand how things are. Without ourselves understanding how things exist, how things are, we would be able to help others in clearing away their doubts. And so we can see that people experience difficulties or problems attributed to misunderstanding, not understanding, being clouded, being confused, and so forth. And so going back to the way of gathering, we spoke of, first of all, being generous as the first way, then also speaking in a way that is pleasant, but also acting in a way that is meaningful, in a sense that being able to help others, eliminating their doubts through understanding how things exist.
드니 어디르다 다 시바디 Rida shibat mashi dan nganzu shong korama long drosha basra.
Also.
Nibanis jimban har parshin ki kaus shebat dala. Nyeman ni dojala parshin tempo was. Da zu di ani parshin tempo.
And so when we look at the 4 ways of gathering disciples, I'll share it with the people at home. Training in the 4 ways of gathering disciples that ripens the minds of others begin with generosity. Generosity is the same as explained in the context of the perfections. The chapsan loimbe, chapsan loimbe.
Jimbat loy. Parshin tempo was. Nyeman dojala parshin tempo was.
Yeah. Not saying.
Lo. Love same.
Oh, not saying.
You parshin de la song.
Jaja, the niema should
Shebat dalas.
Mm.
Ani nyemha said nyembar mawat. The dojala parshin tempo is. Loy.
Mm. And then pleasant speech is to teach the perfections to disciples.
The Sanji Jomden Digi Kejanim Shudi and then Passion Tembatris on the Radanganzo Passion Sheba and Anzo Nimbuchag Yanta Euro.
Here it says that pleasant speech is to teach the perfections to disciples, in that when we think of the most pleasant speech of the Buddha, the Bhagavan, the most pleasant teachings, you could say, these are the teachings on the 6 perfections. But when the 6 perfections are taught to others, one should really check whether it is something that others find pleasing.
That is Jingotsu by Nara Pigita Dembashiri, any Dembani, Dembashi, and Dinji Tony, any Denji Landurkin, Rodanti, Kanji Gunjakin, Rodanti, any Gojutsu by Na, any Parchin Shion di Pe Nimbuchagwasares, Pe Nimbu, Katsu Nyambayanaya, any that's Mintuni, any Nyende Yonyachi, Ranganzu, Tangmanzu, Pesha, Shida Mashigo, Pesha del Calipir, Kansukutanda, the Shingio Marda, Pesha Shinza Vigilia, Mazikanzala, Pesha Tagua Samsongi, Lodge Ligdasra, Ligorti.
And so, although teaching the 6 perfections is giving a really pleasant set of teachings, still it's not necessarily that everyone will find it pleasing. In that, for someone that has little understanding, it's best to begin with giving teachings on the 4 truths, on the 2 truths. What are the things that we need to take up, the things that we need to cast aside in relation to the 4 truths, to speak about causes and results. If one develops understanding of those topics, then following that, when the 6 perfections are being taught, those teachings become very pleasing, very pleasant. Certainly based upon an understanding of the 4 truths, the 2 truths, what we need to take up, what we need to cast aside, and so forth, one will be more interested in listening to the teachings. One will be more drawn to listen to these teachings. It is like that also when you start studying scripture in a monastery, for example. So the initial stages are not easy. It's quite difficult. But once you develop a little understanding, there arises this thought in your mind, I can do it for the rest of my life. If for the rest of my life I continue to study scripture, to study the Dhamma, that would be excellent.
There's the Parchin Danda Jinso Parchin to Chiglaso. Parchin di Penda Tasa Rojalia, Parchin Town di Lo Dun Tagores, Lo Dun Ra. Hedagas Pi Chuzo Kashi Roji, Marda. Ani Shokini Gonda Part. 아니 자발로라슨 아니 제발했다 비티슈 저발란조 두신 로딩 그린이야 파신경졌다고 그랬어.
And so here, this section refers to the teachings of the perfections. And so the perfection system is taught in the monastery Geshe studied over 7 years. So it's not just giving a discourse that might take a few hours and you then cover all the 6 perfections. The main text that teaches the perfection system is studied over a period of 7 years. And during those 7 years, the daily routine is memorizing the root text that explains the perfection system. Receiving explanation on them. So you go to classes, and then also you have debate sessions in which you debate the material that you studied. So it's not a succinct presentation, it's actually a very extensive presentation.
다 된전이 제대로 땜비 된남라 düja 저든 주고스 양다발 랜드 주고스
Meaningful conduct, the text says, is to encourage disciples to engage in the meanings they were taught or to induce them to correctly adopt them.
들다 디 웅기 빼나 웅기 깨우 담바 소속이 아니 추시에서디 즉 미투졸로야 추시에는 현상 소리 지어서 말아왔어. 아니 원이 이게 즉 소소소라야 아니 레와다 이체다 대바체네 아니 레딩인 소라야 다추 아니 디 지금미디 다부갑 로 텔레야 세고 네멜라 소부토네 가르로바치고 디로바치 아니 추드 라바 잠마세 피길이야 아니 냠린 체죽 로 란더 냠린 체죽 아니 디아 지기에메 니마 딱바 비기 아니 익세다 마선 렌치 투 전에 아니 소종 지고라서 빼는 간주 자사로 있는 딘지르다스로 아니 게두 피길이야 가주스야바는 디디 아니 따도 참진 담볼레온 디기 아니 풀바다 딩아얀치니 피기 댕간레 딩아니 친 타리치니 아니 제고레스 테니 친 니마타바 콜레야 쇼기 아니 나토라 가주 샘디 디 아니 규글라 아니 비기게 아니 지와티 아니 비 아니 저버저스라다 아니 개개 가시다 아니 저버저스는 최근 두면도 치로 비 타린 부분이 베니 미때는 댕이든지 마무리하다 아 근데 치고 덴지기 빼 아니 디 제사기 게루디 아니 수수핑자로도 수수부로디니 가야 말다 제와치에 맹이 롬바시말 레딩이 게루도 수수부가 안신진 다보야 소중 치거레스 그냥 안저로 딘디 차겨레 마도 개개 매와
And so when Lamarin Kappa explains it like that, to act in a way that is meaningful, let's look at that again. It says, it is to encourage disciples to engage in the meanings they were taught or to induce them to correctly adopt them. And so that was the way that the great masters of the past have acted, which is somewhat dissimilar to the way that things are done at the present. And so it seems that at time of old, the way that those great masters engaged their students, their disciples, first of all, those connections were based upon certain hopes or expectations from the master, based on trust. And then the master in turn used to care for the student, for the disciple, in providing them with food and clothing, and also daily teachings, and also instructions for practice. And the progress was monitored daily. Daily, a master used to give instructions to their student and also help them out, guide them along the stairs of practice. In some sense, it's similar to the way that monks are educated in the monastery that Geshe comes etc. monastery. It is like that. And so you have a new monk that is joining the ranks, right? So they're given the basic necessities like utensils for eating. They're given set of robes or a seat to stay in, to sit on and study, and then they have certain things that they need to do daily. So they need to study text, so they need to memorize it. So daily they're being tested or assessed if they know how the memorization is going on. You ask them questions, monitor their progress. You send them to debate sessions, and it is not uncommon for teachers also to make sure that the students do go to those debate sessions. So sometimes you see that you have teachers that stand outside of the debate court, somewhat in hiding or far away. They came to check whether the student is indeed involved with debate sessions and trying to assess how they're doing. And it's not that you do it only with those who are family related to you, close relatives or distant relatives. You would treat a new monk that is joining a monastery and then is coming under your care. You treat them as if they were your own child. It's very common.
피 게겐리아 직텐스 젤라 아니 게겐디 카리 송바이나야 년 로고레스 라 디야 산좀된디 공바레 마다야 디파랄레 세세기 틴디레 마다 산좀된디 두바 코라나나야 무빈네라 마시바 자와카야 마차와스 무빈네 싱게 디피기 아니 다부장이 게겐디 야 무빈네 라 간지 아니 디레스 텔레야 게지 티chen 아니 페나 소수기 페나 다 간저도 사다림 레요 아니 다살요 게겐 투세디 타마델레야 게기니 가리 송바이나야 아니 타마피기 소수 남메질레야 투사 drogo나 게겐 게지 티니 게겐 거 drogo 머슬라베나 야차 야타마 녜친 데기르 마도 아니 가와 drogi나 가와 데기마 식지가 말람니 아니 로장에 드니지요 말스 도발 칼 가고라도 깃 찔라 드라베나 페칼 가고라도 아다 로
And so in a monastic community like that, you rely upon teachers, and when you rely upon a teacher, then you need to listen to what they say. You need to take it on board. There's a Buddhist reference to the way that you would do it. You would then, when you join a certain community or when you rely upon a teacher, there's the teacher that gives you instructions with respect to the things that you need to do. So you do what they ask you to do, what they advise you to do, and you do not do what they say, what they tell you not to, basically. So Geshe then thinks about it in relation to himself. Having traveled a long distance from Eastern Tibet and joined Saraje Monastery in South India, so it's at a great distance. It's a new place, new community. So then you rely upon a teacher and you trust that the person is giving you the right guidance, to the point where if, for example, you would approach your teacher, your Lama, and ask them, should I go and see my family members, this family member or so? If you say, no, just leave it, you just leave it. Here, in our culture, in our situation, it's quite hard. It's hard to entrust yourself to a teacher to that degree and to follow what they say in a way that it is done. For example, it's Saraje Monastery.
어디리다 텐텐스 셴남 텐칸라 자와 텔라란네니 대담 톰발로바테 도디겐레 진송 테든 렌주타 다니 제순중남기 냠버마단 텐조탄 텐든인든 대바이 셰소스.
And so the last out of the four is to act in accord with the meaning, and it is to abide in the meaning one has introduced to others and trained accordingly. The ornament to the Mahayana Sutra provides the source for that. It says generosity is as before, while teaching it, making others adopt it, and engaging in it oneself are asserted, respectively to be pleasant speech, meaningful conduct, in accord with the meaning.
지시를 두싱이시나스 다 두윙오볼에 시탕이바 카르레슬라나스 코르 게발레 자비치 두발라는 통말테 가고라 대야 산싱기 짐바치니 룰란 펜도발라 되소 대다르 간에 람라 죽발라 통말테 치더 차출 시고라 대야 냠바마베 취셰베 메시바단 태존사와 도르니 전신주 말로건 진주비 체로스
Why are the means of gathering disciples specified as 4? In order to gather a retinue for the sake of introducing them to virtue, they first need to be joyful. For this purpose, 1, give them gifts of material things and benefit their bodies. Once they have become joyful in that way, in order for them to engage in the path, they first need to know how. For that, the second point is to explain the Dhamma to them by speaking pleasantly so that they eliminate ignorance and doubts and make them understand the meaning unmistakably.
대달 셰바나 된제비 개워드발은 주벌 제양 대양 랑기 마드나 젠라 주도 치더 차고소 셰셰바나 캐랑야 된데 마드나 젠라 대드시 지셔마 최장 다동 생기 쪼고소 세네 드브드 미녀라 랑기 드버시기나 다 칸라 츠비 개워텔 코랑야 네버치나 드드나 달라 펜바타 대원기왕이 냠네 서든 주지 슈신 남자 무도바 템비 텔라는 된도 고소스
When they understand that, the third point is cause them to engage in accomplishing virtue through meaningful conduct. Furthermore, if you do not practice that yourself, but merely explain to others, this is how you should engage and desist, they will say, why do you tell others to practice it if you do not practice it yourself? You too still need to be corrected by others, and they will not listen to what is to be practiced. However, if you practice that yourself, they will also think, since he himself abides in the virtue in which he guides me, there will definitely be benefit and happiness for me if I accomplish it, and they will enter the path. Also, those who are already on the path will not turn away from it and will grow firm.
두잡 군기 된 드바당 탑상보 산지 송베나 코르도바 남긴 들 땡고데 코르도바당 덴바남 순들라네 양다진 군기 전군 루지치 탑상 임바랍둥아 셰소스.
Since the Buddhas taught that the 4 ways of gathering disciples accomplish all the welfare of all disciples and that they are a good method, those who gather followers should rely on them. The ornament for the Mahayana Sutra says, those who gather followers perfectly rely on this method. It accomplishes all the aims of everyone and is extolled as an excellent method.
대달라 냠지 제달수 주비 순이 조쳔비 찬추 셈비 쩌번네 랍첸 파르 친룩속 냠샤 람비 난주기 속기 람드 템버트 제송바터 야시기 dombo송이 찬심 레 당보와 속기 람라 네버티 냠제 칸 체장 친루레 만다위 친루라라 냠샤도 짱신 라라 제도 짱디 something 잉오 신내당 신시 잉오 상동가식 냠샤도 곰라 파신 담보숨당 something 더 새로기 창가식 제도 짱오 zon주는 냠지 니가 온라 소비 초직 최 삼물라 니버셈바 가시는 냠샤도 양 종오스.
The great elder Atisha taught the way to accomplish the 6 perfections during meditative equipoise and post-meditation in his heart summary. Bodhisattva conduct includes the vast 6 perfections and so forth. The yogi arising from meditative equipoise steadfastly accomplishes the path of accumulation. In this way, the beginner bodhisattva who has taken the vows of the victor's children and abides on the path of accumulation never passes beyond the 6 perfections, whether in meditative equipoise or in post-meditation. Therefore, some of the 6 perfections are maintained in meditative equipoise and some in post-meditation. Meditative stabilization, which is shamatha, which means the concentration that is shamatha or absorption, is the perfection of wisdom, which is special insight, are partially cultivated in meditative equipoise. The first 3 perfections and some elements of meditative stabilization, the 5th perfection, and wisdom are maintained in post-meditation. Joyous effort occurs both in meditative equipoise and in post-meditation. One type of patience, some mental states of certainty regarding the profound Dhamma, also occur during meditative equipoise.
Tandi nangolaya nyam je said nyam ja da jetab e kabni ro tangandu ngone che nyamnen cheba delaya ani kabni ngo sa da kabni chago res ro ji jetab kab ji nyamsha kabs da jetab kablaya ani chawa khar chigorslandi su di ninji da chanju semla soba ro ji ani jimbatanya odi di ani Tsultrim sonya soba gomya ta sobi chok jing nyamjala yorslara odo di ani jetab kichavares.
So this section explained an important point pertaining to the 2 periods in one's practice. One period is called meditative equipoise. The second period is called post-meditation. And so there are practices that are being sustained in post-meditation, which means post-meditative equipoise. So for example, cultivating compassion and bodhicitta, generosity, guarding ethics, practicing patience. There's some part of patience that the text says that occurs while being in meditative equipoise, but also patience is practiced in post-meditation.
Ta nyamsha slawndigi nyamsha di pigi tombanilaya ani sem tichi teni samlo tayandi nyamsha slawores.
And meditative equipoise is the period in which the mind is single-pointedly being attended to emptiness.
Tadi kechambu pe chagor da karsana nganzugi gewa drugor da gewa drumna gyu gewa drumna drebu deva yong nganzu devan dyoganza gyu gewa drugor da gewi ani gokyen di gewi muntu chok gewi loshok di megiwa drawasra megiwa yongsa gi shedi tanji shobana chagdam monsum tu kyuwe ani nyumung rigdi ani megiwigi shichagwares da digi tu di ani marigba ga nange ani pigita dangzin set da pi rawan trouble zimbi lo so ra nga rawan trouble zimbi lo di ani da megiwigi da shiza thatu badres da di chombalaya ani da meba tobi lo da meba dagi da rawan du yeda me zalni cheni da rawan du meba ngibi lo di da gewigi da lo inang da chok du kyobati ro o di yungores.
And so this is important. It's important because we need to cultivate virtue. We need to cultivate virtue because virtues are causes. They're causes that issue forth happiness or well-being as their result. And so we need to cultivate virtue, and what run counters to virtue, what is adverse with virtue, is what we call non-virtue. The very basis for non-virtue are anger, attachment, and ignorance. This constitute the basis for non-virtues, and of them, ignorance is chief, and particularly ignorance of grasping at the self, which wholeheartedly trusts that oneself independently exists, or that the self exists independently. And so to destroy those factors which are not conducive, which are adverse with virtue, we need to destroy ignorance. And in order to do that, we begin with analyzing whether the self exists indeed independently, or whether it exists independent upon others. And so when we conduct that analysis, that investigation, inquiring into the nature of self, whether it is dependent or independent, and thereby we come to understand that the absence of an independent self, that an independent self does not exist, which is what we call selflessness, that becomes the best virtue.
Tireda kansana benada jeta ukablaya bena chambata ninjila so komyadi manzu chagdang ragba digidi godnya suji tireda sra ta dipedi ani tsawani ani mewasongi thagba chingindi ani dangzi ge shenyu meba tobilo kanji da meba gombi lo di chagonza an di the dingibo the songre cheni ani nyumba the shijitaba meba soyadi ani tap tingin bashinza the disungores ra nyamja dang jeta kapsedi.
And so in post-attainment or post-meditative equipoise, we meditate on love and compassion. They bring down or they suppress anger and attachment. But then to completely eliminate them, we need then to deal with ignorance. And so ignorance consists of an independent self. And so to eliminate ignorance, we need to understand that the object conceived by ignorance does not exist, that the self as conceived by ignorance does not exist, which means that we need to meditate on selflessness. And so if we meditate on selflessness in meditative equipoise, that will eliminate afflictive obscurations. It will also eliminate cognitive obscurations. That's the only method in meditative equipoise that meditates on selflessness. That's the only method for eliminating our obscurations.
Rada nganzingi teba nanshingi nga pigita di ani shenla ya madeba ramun di yobaina da shenla togoya ki yomarda da dinji da shenla madeba ramun di yobadi ani charvi sonan leondi ani da chagdo dan ransom dan kongjo da jig ngala jig chemaso ngi jig sayda dirig chama ani nga rawan du tabi lo digi da ani kaseta ya driyung do sa da dig soyung goresro da dingone tani nga rawan du mebadi nga de pigita ani teni tagba ani teni truba imba dindiji ani ngansul dilaya lo yagbu ji komtuba ina 아니 차당글로 디디 갸탐바 아니 시드라이즈된다 닌자다 디 콤바지발이야 양양 상로단 콤지된야디 냠샤세디 기치슈 쓰고야디 디려왔었다.
And so our grasping at the self is a state of mind in which we take the self to exist independently in an autonomous way, without needing to rely upon others. And when this feeling of ourself as being independent, not being reliant on others, not depending upon others, when the feeling of that arises in our mind, we react to that with either becoming jealous, we're becoming competitive, with a sense of hostility and thinking that person has done such and such to me, that independent, unreliant person. So this set of negative emotions, jealousy and competitiveness and hostility and so forth, all of them are brought forth by ignorance of grasping at the self, grasping at an independent self. And so we investigate the nature of the self. Does it exist in a way that it appears to our mind? Is it the case indeed that we are independent, that we do not depend on, that we are not related to other things? And so when we investigate the nature of the self and come to say that I am not independent, I'm imputed independence upon others, I'm established, I exist in relation to others, definitely 100% certain that it will quell anger and attachment. And therefore, that period of meditative equipoise in which we attend a mind to the absence, to the non-existence of an independent self is extremely important.
조챔베스 냠샤 람비 뒤다도 기미 빼게 따버니 추군 따고 검집이 제기 또버 장와도 탑을 또버 쏘차 냠바샤비 뒤다도 션을 항도 찬냠시 대기 따도 검버자 시에소스.
And so the great elder Atesha said in his concise method for accomplishing the Mahayana path, each time you rise from meditative equipoise, cultivate a view of all phenomena as like illusions, such as the 8 similes. In post-meditations, purify conceptuality and emphasize the training in method. At the time of meditative equipoise, balance shamatha and special insight and cultivate them continuously.
대답이 저번에도 중앙 작가와 로 마장배 퇴나 이글라 동원 깨바 남네스 장섬 남기짱 당분이 냠수시 민유짱 시바를 친 매유 춘제도 공부 제바나 치는 배발을 못해봐 랑기 낭기 주방 우에 공부 같이돼 무슨 죽문이번 통이 대달을 로종의 공부야 돌나 람남다 레 치신도 잠이 쳐데 연된 타이 버 되발레 간식 토번 견나만 지된들라 너버게 줬다 가야 켜니 기자 유린 꾸님셔봐 미저비 저버 대다 켜로 컴비 투스랑기 나닌줄 텔레 연된 다네 용컴 마지 페워카발라 시소소.
For those whose minds are untrained, to hear about such wonderful but difficult conduct produces anguish. Although even bodhisattvas are unable to take it as a practice right from the start, if you come to understand it and acquaint yourself with it as something to aspire to, later on you will naturally engage in it without effort. This is why familiarization is important, for if you see it as impossible and refuse to familiarize yourself with training your mind in it, you will be extremely far from the completely pure paths. The praise of infinite qualities says, practices that distress worldly beings to even just hear about them, and that even you have never practiced for an extended time will become natural to you through gradual familiarization with those practices. Hence, it is hard to increase excellent qualities without familiarity.
대실 chanchusam chansum ki dombo soman amkini chobala melebi tamela juksum chogi mazon namgika lomdo jomala beni chobala joshu pewana dombo sonla shindu tembi bebar chawo kewuchimbi lamrimli mensum jamada jasi chobala lebi lamrim shesindos.
Therefore, those who have taken bodhisattva vows must train in the conduct, but even those who have not taken up engaged bodhicitta by means of a ritual should try to develop the desire to train in it. The vow will be very stable if it is taken after enhancing one's delight in the training. Therefore, you should put effort into this. This concludes the explanation of training in aspiring bodhicitta and the stages of the path of training in the conduct of the victor's children. In general, within the steps of the path of persons of great capacity.
당한주 제만이 다 신랑이 세야지. 또다 돈다 제만이 신의 딩 고추용 그래서 다 신이 신랑 고추온디 신의 돈다 가시 배시 찍지는 나와 진이 라드로 왔으라.
And so following that, we will start next week the section that explains particularly how to develop shamatha, calm abiding, and then special insight. So in the next few weeks, couple of months, we will cover the section that explains the meditation on calm abiding. So it's teaching the 4 truths, the 2 truths, the 6 perfections. Is that if that's a good order of teaching, would it be also good to teach them to children at the beginning? Dila dembashi, dembani, panchin chuglaso, but then the jimbajene dalan kesi shewegi koring yagoina. That the po chunchunla, lapte po chunchunla. 다만 이 추시오이나 코림 디토네 시나 야보도스.
그것도 거야 깔라가고로. 우신중기 딘디기 배 삼로디 땡사부 땅투고 말아왔어.
Depends on depends on one age, you know. Sorry, depends of what age. You know, the 4 truths, the 2 truths, the 6 perfections, a complicated topic. Geshe is wondering whether those topics to begin with are suitable for those who haven't got like a mature way of thinking about it. You know, the fortune lap and tene druba den do chigi chila temba tuba den do chi peshe lela boso na peshe consola shetu gresa.
lela uzotun diksares. Aldoza. Tai yakshu di penada lender kodo. Ro lender kodo. Teni chig rom sejara. Penam buti gita buchik sechin kero di adinji do den da chig matang neso zodo. Kanji lender kodo ani kewang hasio kodo this.
Tade po junchula de kadila luxu dila kewa ngache
luxu means a luxu sogora. But dinner do chevana yabuyosares.
And so if you have ways to make it simple for kids, you can do it, but you know, those topics are still kind of quite complex. Geshe reckons that, you know, for kids, you know, speaking of, for example, what is a suitable behavior, what is not suitable behavior, you know, to include within that's maybe some discussion of karma, even of past and future lives. Maybe that could be more accessible or helpful. So, you know, thinking about, for example, what is suitable, what is not suitable. There was a jumping ant walking on Geshe's desk with another insect in its grip. So teaching them how it is not appropriate to kill others or to harm others. Yeah. Dila doe ngombo shi dila sombatan shiva dinila keba karayo me seda shabo mindosa trawo dawo chik tongi dosa chik kare sheba di soson yamnen chego gres chik kwaden dawo chil langi marves di dawo chage marves.
Understand.
Tadila dun dila dun tumba tan dun chuba seajdoa. Di dawo dawo chitongi dusa.
The Java Yungo, the Java Yungo Rasra, 10 Java, 10 and Jubas, 10 Jabas Lawn, the 10 Java, the Yungos, the Kunile and Java Yungo is. But 10 Joya di 10 Kunile Java Yungo is Lada.
그런 게 케바카리오 레스케치기도. So first of all, Geshe says that meaningful conduct and to act in accord with the meaning, they are related to each other. So there is a connection between them.
네, tenchoba세디 랑돌 내려야 아니 죽죽바티 tenchobas 페나 안 단지 검시어 말세대저라 검시 매버디 검시 소야디 검지 매버디 검지 땡주게저라 디터버디 tencho바레스 다 아니 ten 톰바스 라운디 강 피길이야 tenche 주게디 아니 소소 텔레 네체니
So they're similar, but you can say, for example, that meaningful conduct is to cause others to behave in a way that is meaningful. Like, for example, if you care for others and are not familiar with a type of behavior that is a positive behavior, then you help them create those habits. So in that sense, it is meaningful conduct. But it's not enough just to help others to do it. Also, oneself needs to act in that way. So oneself also needs to act in accordance with that conduct. Dila yan damagi pege chikshasto.
Malam ye.
Dila di kares kitten chikido. So Chris was asking, what are the 8 similes? Well, similes such as dreams and so forth. We will cover that later on when we look at the philosophical view of selflessness. Yeah, there's kind of So Geshe can give a list of things, but actually it's not enough just to give a list of things. You need to explain what these similes are, and then it becomes like a really long and involved discussion. So we will cover it later on. So if you study the insight section in its entirety, those similes are explained in an elaborated way. They explain or they exemplify the view of selflessness, like a dream and so forth. So without really looking into that and explaining that in great details, it would be very difficult to understand how those 8 similes work. And so thank you very much. We will leave it here for now. We will finish off with the recitation of the final Lamrim dedication. Second. For my 2 collections, vast space that have amassed from working with effort at this practice for a great length of time. I become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose mind's wisdom eyes blinded by ignorance. Even if I do not reach this state, may I be held in your loving compassion for all lives Manjushri. May I find the best of complete graded parts of the teachings. May I please all the Buddhas by my practice. Using skillful means strong by the strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness from the minds of all beings with the points of the path that I have discerned them. May I uphold Buddha's teachings for a very long time, with my heart going out with great compassion in whatever direction the most pleasant, precious teachings have not yet spread, or once spread have declined. May I reveal this treasure of happiness and aid. May the minds of those who wish for liberation be granted bounteous peace, and the Buddha's deeds be nourished for a long time by even the discredited path to enlightenment, completely due to the wondrous virtuous conduct of the Buddhas and their sons. May all human and non-human beings eliminate adversity and create conducive conditions for practicing the excellent paths. never departed in any of the lives on the purest path praised by the Buddhas. Whenever someone makes effort to act in accordance with the tenfold Mahayana virtuous practices, may he always be assisted by the mighty ones, and may oceans of prosperity spread everywhere.